Marcus Aurelius said, "Death smiles at us all. All we can do is smile back." And I feel like you sort of get up in the morning and you look at the god of death and you simply say, "Not today."
I do that, actually.
And of course, our guest of honor, Dr. David Sinclair.
Dr. David Sinclair.
Dr. David Sinclair.
David Sinclair.
David Sinclair.
David Sinclair has spent the last 20 years working to defy aging.
So maybe once a year you go get a prescription for your doctor, you take it for a week, and it reverses your aging. Is that your vision here?
Well, it's not just a vision, it's going to happen. It's like asking the Wright brothers, are we going to fly? Well, of course we are. It's just a question of when.
And what do you want? The guy is curing blindness. You want the mouse to live forever?
Thank you, Rishi. So I've given lots of talks in my life. I've followed Nobel Prize winners, even Academy Award recipients. But Sean, for goodness sakes, will you be my mentor, please?
Yes, I'd be honored to.
Awesome. Because I could learn a few things, seriously. Really great stuff.
But I think it should be vice versa. You should be my mentor.
That would be my honor. So anyway, there's going to be some serious things. I'm not as funny as Sean. I'm certainly not as cute, that's for sure. But I do want to thank Rishi and Colin, Joey, Rohit, Seth, Braden, and all of you for doing what I think is really a dream for the United States and upcoming generations. When I grew up, there was nothing like this, and it was only really through luck and a bit of hard work to get to this point. And I would have dreamed of having mentors like you. And I want to also acknowledge the parents. You've all got parents, right? And I don't think you'd be here without them. I'm looking straight down here at Sean's parents. I think, Sean, you're very lucky to have your two parents. I know they're very supportive. They're probably overwhelmed a little bit sometimes.
These people might possibly have the best genetic information on.
So we'll cover some genetics perhaps tonight. But yeah, so thanks to the parents. And I know I'm only here because of my parents and their parents before them, going back tens of thousands of times. And I think it's important that we have gratitude and acknowledge the people that have gotten us to this point. And that includes two people who are here with me tonight, my partner Serena and her mother, who has gotten her here. And so they're over there at our table. And I'm towards the end of my talk, I've decided I'm going to give you a talk that I give to my lab. We have retreats every 6 months in my lab where we don't just discuss science, we discuss life, how to be a better person, how to be a better human being, and how to run a successful group, whether you're a venture capitalist, an entrepreneur, a scientist, or just a wife or a husband or a parent. And I've got a list of things that I tell them every time. This is my secret to success. But one of them is to find a really great partner in life. Okay, and I've found Serena, who is extremely generous and kind and supports me in a way that I find myself very lucky to have. So if you don't yet have a partner, or if you have a partner who isn't supportive, try to find one who really... Oh no, I'm sorry. If you're an unsupportive partner, try to be really supportive. Because it really matters. Today, to achieve the heights and be the best in your field and make a difference in the world, it does take a team, Sean. I absolutely agree with you. And it starts at home. It starts with the people that are close to you, your parents and your partner. And if you don't pick the right partner, life can be tough. And I'm really blessed to have a partner who inspires me, teaches me, and just makes life a joy to live. So thank you. So that. We'll get to the list of successes, but that's an important one. Okay, so I speak for a living. Actually, I do. As much as Serena doesn't like it, I get called a podcaster sometimes. But I'm actually a professor at Harvard Medical School. That's really what I get up in the morning to do, and it is such a joy. For those of you who are thinking about what to do with your life, I hope that you're as lucky as I am to do your dream job. And it's crazy even calling it a job. The stuff that I do outside of my lab is a job. Okay? Everything is pretty much a job. But when I'm in my lab with my students, and we've got a lot of young kids in my lab, we swell to about 40 people in the summer. For me, that's my heaven. I walk in and I'm happy, and I don't want to go home. And so I hope for all of you that you can find what you're passionate about and make it your career, because then you're not working for a living, you're having fun for a living. And that's not to say that it's not stressful. There have been times in my career, although I'm better at dealing with stress now, but for the first 20 years of my career, I would lose a lot of sleep over not being successful enough, or somebody saying something mean, or experiments not working, or a company not going as well as I'd hoped. It was constant. Or the media, if you stick your head out, I'm sure you can imagine what people will say about you. And so I was quite upset during my career. And there were even times when my little lab was up against large pharmaceutical companies who were claiming that my research was not true. And that was really tough. That was hard to get out of bed. But what I've learned is that as long as you are passionate about what you're doing, you can get through those hard times and just push through and keep pushing and keep pushing. And I know a lot of people tell you this, even Sean said this, that you should not give up. And there are many times in my career when I've thought it would just be so much easier to give up. I was quite depressed at one point where I'd spent most of my life trying to make a difference in the world, and the reason I do what I do is really to leave the world a better place, and then to be attacked by a couple of pharmaceutical companies, and then Nature magazine, and then the newspapers, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Nature. It was tough. Eventually our work was about 5 years later proven to be correct, but those years were tough. And so what I've learned is that even if you feel like quitting, you absolutely should never, ever, 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 ever quit. And I'm so glad I didn't. Because what happens, and now I'm old enough to really understand this because I'm 55, and it's true for any profession, not just in science. If you look at Hollywood, and Serena's opened my eyes to Hollywood because she grew up in LA, anyone at the top of their field, you can guarantee it's being tough. No one gets to the forefront of their profession without really working hard and having been attacked multiple times. And so what I really want to impress on you is that it's going to be tough, and it should be tough. If you've chosen the right career and you're going to make a difference in this world, I'll quote from Nicki Minaj. I bet you never thought I was going to do that tonight. She said, if you're not being attacked, you're probably not doing something important. Okay. Right? So remember that, or something to that effect. And so I remember that too. And it's very stressful, actually. My students sometimes get quite upset when somebody says our work isn't right, or they're at a conference and somebody tells them that their work isn't that important. Science is a tough business, and in fact, it's your colleague's job to criticize you. You have to remember that. That's their job, to challenge you. And you shouldn't take it personally, but sometimes my students do, and I have to remind them that they have to push the boundaries, and if we're not getting attacked, we're not pushing the boundaries enough. Okay? So what we try to do in my lab, and I think that this is true for all of you, is what I want you to do in your careers is to ask really important questions to answer, right? We're all curious, but please spend your lives trying to make a big difference in the world. You're all really smart. It's incredible, the people that I've met already. And you are the leaders in this country, and the US is the leader country in the world for this. And so you can really make a big difference. And the way to do that is not to say, oh, there's this new technology, or I've discovered this little thing in my lab and I'm going to study it in even more detail. It's to sit back, close your eyes, and think, what are the giant questions that nobody has ever thought to even tackle? For me, it was, why don't we live longer? That's a pretty big question. But there are lots of questions that have not been tackled by humanity just yet. And I hope that you can be driven by answering big questions, and then you figure out how to answer it. Right? In my lab, we're not driven by technology, we're driven by the questions, and then we invent the technology or collaborate with groups or bring teams together to answer that question. And that's one of the secrets to the success in my career. And we do want to mention the importance of STEM on the planet. It's often easy to forget how important what we do is. We talk about STEM, and it's often people who are not really into science think of us as nerds, whatever. But be proud of that, because if it wasn't for STEM, we would still be in the Middle Ages, right? And we had the Enlightenment, fortunately, about 300 years ago, and that's still continuing, and it's you guys that are going to continue that tradition. And it doesn't have to go on forever. There have been times in human history where STEM has emerged. Serena and I were in Athens last week, I think, and that's where a lot of the civilization emerged, but it can die quickly. It's not a given that we will always be progressing as a civilization. It can slow down and end, and we can regress. So let's keep this going. Let's push forward and see how far we can go as a species, uncovering the mysteries of the universe and using them to all be happier and healthier for longer. So just a little bit, if I didn't speak a little bit about my research, you'd probably be either upset or a little bit bored. So I'm going to talk about that for a minute, and I really don't have much more than a few minutes to do that. But if you haven't seen my podcast or read my book, or have no idea who I am, the best way to summarize what I do is I have a theory. It's called the information theory of aging, and it came from work that I did when I was 27 at MIT. And what we discovered was that there are single genes in all organisms, plants, yeast cells, even bacteria, certainly ourselves, that control the aging process. And you can even change just one of these genes and make yeast cells live twice as long. And sometimes you can make worms live 10 times longer. Now, we don't know yet how much longer we can live, but it's absolutely true that you can live longer than you would if you didn't pay attention to the science. And that's one of the things that Serena and I do when we go around the world. I think last year Serena was on the road 300 days a year, traveling, mostly speaking and meeting people. We are educators because we believe that with a little bit of knowledge, you can change your life for the better. And even at the age of 20 and 30, how you live your life now will impact the health that you are when you're 80 and 90 and 100. So remember that every time you party hard, you will affect your future. But if you're good with your life now and live a life that the science says will activate these longevity genes that we've discovered, you will thank yourself in the future for having lived a life that delays aging. And so what my research has shown, and of course I represent a big field now, so it's not just my lab, but what we do is that we try to understand why are we aging, how to slow it down, and most recently we found a way to reverse aging. And based on the information theory of aging, think of it like software in the body. We found that there's a backup copy of the youthful software, and we can flip a switch and reset the body's software. Imagine you've got a phone that doesn't work, it's old, or a computer, and you get that spinning little disc. We found a way that's a good analogy for aging in our bodies. We found a way to reinstall the software and make it work again. And when we do that in mice, we can cure blindness, we can cure dementia, we can cure Alzheimer's so far, literally, there has not been a disease or an injury that we haven't been able to fix in that animal in my lab. It's quite remarkable. It's the only technology I know of that can regrow optic nerves and cure Alzheimer's. The same treatment. I'm not talking about different technology. The same technology can do all of that. And when you put it into an old mouse, their remaining lifespan is more than doubled. So you might say, well, that sounds science fiction. Well, it's now been done in monkeys. Monkeys have had their vision fixed with this technology. I'll tell you what it is in a minute. And the first human, by the end of this year, will be treated with this technology. And we'll know by this time next year, hopefully, if we can cure blindness in people. And after that, we're not stopping. We're going to be treating other tissues, other organs, and we're already doing experiments to treat the whole body. And eventually, we want to reset the whole human body.
That sounds exciting.
Thanks. We're pretty excited, actually. And so now when I see an older person, I literally don't see an old person anymore. I just see somebody who hasn't yet been reset. And that's how we will view old age. Some people will choose to grow old. Others will have a choice not to. Now, we're not going to live 1,000 years anytime soon, as far as I can tell. But we do know that we can reset the animal multiple times. So I'm pretty certain in your lifetimes, those of you who are still in your 20s and 30s, that there will be a future where you will be able to go back 10 years every 10 years. And maybe it's only 9 years every 10 years, but it's going to be possible to reset your bodies. We're already doing this in my lab routinely. My students do this as though it's normal, a normal thing to go to work and do in animals. Now you might say, well, this sounds too good to be true. Is it safe? Well, we've done a lot of safety studies. We've invested over $100 million into this. There's a spin-out company called Life Biosciences here in Massachusetts, just down the road. And they're the ones that are going to do the human clinical trial this year. And so it is very exciting. Thank you. But there's often this pushback, and I understand how it is. Often if there's new technology, whether it's trains or planes or genetic engineering, it's like there's got to be something wrong with this. This is not normal. But our whole lives are filled with things that are not normal. What in this room is normal? What's natural? I don't really know what's natural in this room. We're breathing air that's air conditioned. We're all wearing clothes. The walls are not natural. So cancer, we fight against cancer. We fight against heart disease, Alzheimer's. Aging is just the next disease to tick off the list. And we're getting really, really close to that. And then the question is, why would we do this? Why should we tackle aging? Why don't we just treat cancer, which is what we typically do? Well, my argument is that these diseases that we pretty much all of us will die from are manifestations of the same underlying process, this corruption of the body's software. You're all really into science, so you probably know what the epigenome is, the systems that control the reading of the DNA. That's the main information that gets corrupted as we're older. And we know this because we can now reset the age of an animal, reset the age of cells, human cells. And we don't change the genome, we don't change the DNA code, but we do change the readers of the DNA. So it's the epigenetic information that's important. And so I think that we're not too far from having the first medicines that can treat multiple diseases and multiple injuries with the same therapy. So the technology, very briefly, it's a gene therapy currently, where we use 3 genes that are called Yamanaka genes, and Professor Yamanaka won the Nobel Prize for finding that these genes can make stem cells out of adult cells. But what we did that was interesting was we found that you could use them not just to make stem cells, which, by the way, would not be a good thing. You'd be the world's largest tumor, which we don't want to do. We had to figure out how to turn back the clock, only 75%, not 100%. We don't want to make you an embryo. We don't want to make you an egg cell. You'll be dead. And if you do that to a mouse, it literally is dead within 2 days. So there was a challenge. How do you make something younger and healthier without causing it to die or cause cancer? And we figured it out by using a subset of those genes, 3 genes called OSK for short. And we deliver them into the eye or into the whole body using viruses that are domesticated. And that we have talked to the FDA, and they're very excited about this technology. And we can turn it on and off, by the way. We've got an on-off switch. So you just take an antibiotic called doxycycline to turn it on. So we expect that within 6 weeks we'll get vision, if all goes well. If we recapitulate what happened in the monkeys, we'll get vision restored in people after 6 weeks. And then if their vision degrades again due to old age or glaucoma or macular degeneration or an injury or a stroke in the eye, which is now more prevalent because of Ozempic and Wegovy, you'll just take the antibiotic again and you'll get your vision back again. And that's the beginning, I think, of a revolution in our ability to treat diseases and injury. In the same way that salamanders can grow new limbs and fish can grow new fins, we're going to be a species that we can heal like a newborn baby or even like a salamander one day. And that's where I think we're going. So anyone who's seen me speak knows I can talk for way too long because I get passionate. I'm kind of like you, Sean. I can't shut up. But we didn't want you to leave the stage, Sean. I think people couldn't get enough of you, so that's what I meant. All right. So here are my top dozen things for success. All right. So the first is be passionate. If you're not passionate, life's just too tough. It'll beat you down. But if you love what you do and you're doing what you feel is your calling, whether it's being a cardiac and neurosurgeon / comedian or curing aging, find your passion. And if you're not passionate about it, move on. Don't settle. Second, be different. Right? It's okay to do something that nobody's ever done before. This is a great example. And it's important that you do because that's what makes the difference. It's what moves us ahead. Number 3, be honest. I found this to be very helpful in my whole life and in my career. It's okay to tell the truth. In fact, it's essential. You get a reputation of being honest. People can trust you, and it's really helped. Number 4, learn how to trust your gut. There were way too many times in my career where I knew what I was doing was wrong, the wrong direction, but I did it anyway because it was easier than telling somebody no, and it's always been the wrong thing. And because Serena is 1,000 times more intuitive than I am, and she trusts her gut, I've been learning also how to use my gut to know what's right and what's wrong and what I should do and what I shouldn't. Number 5 is teamwork. Sean, you mentioned that correctly, is key these days. Especially in today's world where technology is going so fast and it's so complex. Pretty soon we'll be having quantum computers, as you know, designing drugs, and we can design a drug in one day in a way that would have taken 10 years before. And that's just coming up right now. The next one is set high goals for yourself, and if you're not being criticized, you're probably not aiming high enough. Number 7, you all don't need to be told this, but I love that you inspire others as mentors. That's really key. Number 8, cherish the unexpected. As scientists, if you find something doesn't work or that you get the opposite result, that's a great day because you have learned something. Be generous. Often in science, the system's set up, or in business, a system can be set up for winner takes all. The first author in science gets a lot of the credit. And it's very difficult in science to be second, third, fourth, or sixth author. But I've always found that when there was a choice to either fight to be number 1 or to be generous with somebody and say, all right, you take first authorship, it's fine, it's always worked out. It always comes back. I don't know whether it's karma or just the way life is, but be generous. Don't worry about it. The next one is focus, focus, focus. Okay, pick a problem. And if you're doing 10 things at the B level, it's not the same as doing one thing at the A++ level. And the higher you go in your career, the harder it is. Every day I get invitations to speak, to start a company, almost literally every day. And with Serena's advice, it's which are the ones worth doing and which are the ones that are not. And that's really hard to do, especially because when you're young, you think, I got to say yes to everything because there's so many opportunities. But you got to learn as you go up and further to focus. And the next one is find a great partner. We talked about Serena. Take risks. Be scared. One thing that really helped me is that every day I try to do at least one thing that scares me. Whether it's sending an email to someone that I'm worried, if send an email to Elon or whatever, don't know what you're going to get, that kind of thing. Take risks every day. Go push yourself. Accept that you're going to make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. And understand that the stress of life never ends. I guess it does towards the very end, but it may even be stressful to die. Probably it is. But if you accept that life is tough and that it's always challenging and stressful, then it's easier. And that's helped me a lot in my career, is that I used to be a kind of a victim mentality. Why is that person being mean? Why isn't this working? Why is it so hard? Blah, blah, blah. Why aren't we getting more money for science? Why are they cutting it? That's life. As long as you accept that that's what life is, then it's just, now it's a challenge. And it's not negative, it's a positive. And so thank you. All right, so I'm gonna wrap this up. I've got 3 things that I wrote down about the time and place that we're in. I want you to remember that a STEM job, whether it's being an entrepreneur or a communicator or a surgeon saving lives or a scientist pushing the boundaries, there is no better job than that. There isn't. I've done other jobs. I studied accounting at Harvard. I don't hope no one's an accountant here, but discovering new things, how cool is that? That is the best thing. And bringing teams together. There's no better job. There's no better country to do it in than the United States. I can tell you that as someone from Australia who came here, because this is the Athens of the modern world. And there is no better time to be alive, because technology and the brain power is almost unlimited now. And the future is beyond what we can even imagine. And the good news is that you guys get to make that future come true. So thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
David, I'd like to welcome you back to the stage really quick to accept this award for being the STEM for All keynote speaker.
Oh, I forgot to mention, exercise and walking is very good for you. I didn't go through the tips how to live longer, but if you listen to my podcast, read my book, it's pretty much there. It's on page 304. But read the rest of the book because the science is really cool too. But thank you for the honor of this. I really appreciate it.